Tara from the Hiring Circus. I make funny and serious videos about the dysfunctional hiring process from the job seeker's perspective. Today we're going to talk about how hiring has gotten so bad even though there's so much technology and innovation around hiring. The key point to understand in all of this is that companies wanted to cut costs. That's why there's so much automation and AI and technology in hiring. There's a lot of people that used to be involved in hiring. They want to cut back, they want to trim these departments, and so they add automation and they can remove more people from those departments. The problem is they didn't rethink the process and to be able to add that automation and still deliver some quality results. They were focused on costs and less of an emphasis on whether it still produced a good hire or if it improved the process and made it better for everybody. It was more about cutting costs, and I think that is really the driving factor and way to understand what's going on here. The problem is you take humans out of the process, and it's a very people-oriented process. So it doesn't make much sense to add automation on top of it without actually changing anything about the process. So previously you have people writing job descriptions and people submitting resumes, people reviewing those resumes, people doing interviews and hiring. And they did not change anything about that process. There's still job descriptions, there's still resumes, and it's all non-standard because it was intended to be reviewed by a person who could use that information in the context of their experience and understand whether that person was a good fit or not, or the person, the job seeker, understand if they were a good fit for the job, even if they don't have exactly the same words. So instead, they put the automation on top of it and tried to do a matching exercise. So there became more of an emphasis on keywords and the way you describe the jobs, and if you had the words or you didn't have the words, and you had a different match score because of that. If we rewind the tape a bit and look back, and this is not very far back, it's certainly within my lifetime, is that hiring managers used to be way more involved. They used to be the ones reviewing the resume. They're the ones that knew their team and how they operated, maybe what the team needed that they didn't have at that moment and what they were really looking for. And maybe if, somebody had this experience but not that experience, they could still do the job. So it wasn't really needed to match and put all those keywords in there. I know in my own experience when I was applying to jobs early in my career, I never thought about I have to have the same words or same description. I knew that I could do the job based on the way they described it and based on the way that I described my experience. It didn't have to be word for word the same. And I never had a problem getting an interview. Later on in my career, when I started applying for jobs, crickets. Could not get anything. And I started watching videos from people giving advice, and they're saying you need to have all these keywords. And I thought, what is a keyword? Why do we have to do this? I think why we had to start customizing our resume is that hiring managers got squeezed. They got to manage bigger teams, right? They would have to be in all kinds of projects. They would have to be in meetings all day. They didn't have time to make talent their priority. And they've got to put out fires every day, and who they're going to hire next is last on the list of things to do. So recruiting really took over. It boomed, and they outsourced essentially that work to the recruiters. Recruiters may never have done that job before. They may have always been a recruiter. They don't have a good sense of what the job is. They may have a general description and feedback from the hiring manager, but they don't work on the team. In addition, they may be working dozens of jobs, and I can't fault them for, trying to understand 50 different jobs on a deep enough level to know who would be a good hire. And so I think in response, candidates had to start customizing and really directly showing how they could do the job using the same kind of language. I say all this not with the intent of saying automation is bad, technology is bad. Of course, we're going to keep moving toward it and incorporate it more, so we need to learn how to work with it. I've been in the last 10 years in digital transformation and automation, so I can tell you that automation is great. for certain uses, right? So if you have a very routine process that doesn't have a lot of exceptions to the process, great. Very easy to put automation in there. If you've got a lot of, some decision making involved, so you've got some complex decisions that need to be made at various points, automation is not great for that. Because you have to keep throwing out exceptions. You don't have a lot of things that you could have it run through the automation without any human intervention. If you've got a lot of decision points along the way, you've got to add, human intervention at that point, and there's not much automation that can be occurring. The other failure point of automation when you have a non-standard process is that people will put in rules, and sometimes those rules have unintended consequences. Let's say they decide if somebody's not a good fit, just inactivate their profile, but don't you think you should respond to that person and let them know they're not a good fit? And maybe they forgot to put that step because they're not thinking about it from everyone's perspective, right? There are a lot of things that can happen when things are not standard. So if you're looking at a form and everyone fills out the form differently, or puts an X instead of a check mark, or handwrites it instead of typing in an answer, you add a whole lot of complexity. And think about resumes that can come in all kinds of different formats and wording and sections, and you have something that is very difficult to standardize and make it so that it's comparable to other non-standards. So automation can be great, but you need to have a very thorough vetting and testing process and really think through the consequences and have a feedback loop so that if these unintended consequences happen, fixes go in place. The other thing that can happen with automation is people's way of working can change. People's way of working from one person to another could be different. So you're adding in a whole new complication in that if somebody changes the way they work, but they don't change the automation that accommodates their work, they're going to have some problems. So I just want to add that caveat in there that automation is great, but there are some places where it can really fail and not be noticed for a long time because people depend on automation. They don't think about how it should be changed as time goes on. Speaking of not having a feedback loop, you have job applicants who have been applying to jobs and never hear back, or they get rejected in 10 minutes for a job they thought they were perfect for, or maybe they apply to 500 jobs and get one interview, and there's no feedback. How do they know which one they did do well at and they were just a fake job, so that's why they didn't hear back? Or ones where they clearly were not a fit and, that's the reason why they got rejected. It doesn't matter if you were an awesome fit, but somebody beat you out just by a little bit, or if you were a terrible fit and you never should have applied to the job in the first place. There's no feedback in either situation. I can see that there's a natural consequence in people just applying and mass applying and using technology to their advantage and using AI to mass apply to jobs. And so you get tons of applications. From the job seeker's perspective, they don't know why they didn't get the job. At this point, it seems like luck or timing or knowing the right person or who knows what. So might as well just apply to as many jobs as you can and hopefully one time lightning will strike. To get back to the earlier point, we took a human-centered process, added automation on top of it, and didn't think about the human in this. Didn't think about the person at the end of the line who's waiting for that phone call to get an interview, who needs that money, that job to support their family. If you're interested in this topic, please like and subscribe. I would like to do more videos about the technology. And I also have a ton of funny videos on here to get you a little bit of a chuckle while going through this horrible process. Thanks so much for watching and hope to see you next time.